Hello. I already recorded this video. It's 17th of June, 2023. I made a video, but I forgot to add some breaking news. And right now I'm in a completely different place. I'm in a shopping mall nearby where I live. And this is the food court area of that. It's all sorts of different restaurant type places. Most crowded one is this one here. It's where this is the replacement of McDonald's. This used to be McDonald's, and it's called Mac.by, which is means for Belarus. So this is the Belarusian version of whatever took over for McDonald's. And I'll tell you what, I like the French fries there. They give you a larger portion, and of course they taste better too, just so you know. So they're doing better than McDonald's. They do a lot, just as much business, which was a lot of business. But anyway, the breaking news that I wanted to mention, so I'm going to take this segment and put it at the very beginning, and then the rest, you can watch the rest of this video as it transpired earlier. I was making it earlier, but let me just put in some of this stuff now while I'm walking around inside the shopping mall here where I live, in the area where I live. Lots of shoe shops, as you will probably see. They're all over the place. Belarus, good place to buy shoes. So here's one, by the way. And right by that, here's another one. That's where I get my shoes most of the time. And these are all over Belarus, called Megatop. But the breaking news, let me get to that. Stop interrupting me. And I don't know if this is true, but apparently like a company, which is, to me it's it's significant news since I was in the military, but I've heard, and this might be just fake news, it might be rumor, it might be true, and maybe you'll hear nothing more about it, but that an entire company of Ukrainians surrendered to the Russians. I think that was like within the last 24 hours. So that's interesting. When you've been in the military and you work for a company, that could be up to like 200 soldiers. Here's another shoe shop. And guess what? Right across the mall from that, here's another shoe shop. But don't hold your breath. Right next door, another shoe shop. And another shoe shop. So there's no shortage of shoe shops in Belarus, especially in this mall. I don't know. They're not really that expensive, but you buy shoes here. It's a good thing, because I bought shoes from Amazon and they don't last. They don't last at all. What do you know? Look at this. This is surprising. A shoe shop, another one. Imagine my shock. I'm looking at a sports shoe shop right over here. I won't show you that one. I'll just tell you that it was, and you have to trust me. Right next to that is another shoe shop. Gosh. Well, not next to it. Next to that is a sports shop. Then it's some kind of looks like a shoe shop. Some nice girls smiling at me. So, oh, look at this nice color. Look at yellow light all over. And what is this? Shoes. What's across the aisle from that? I can't take it. I can't take it, too many shoes. No, I've had a couple beers, so I'm acting a little bit strange. Probably a little bit better humor than I normally have. I'm not a very funny guy, am I? But anyway, I had, looks like a yoga course here. Yoga, huh? Is that, yeah, looks like you can join. Actually, I might. Nice lady there. Nice shape. But anyway, I'm married. Anyway, I can't do that. But I had a theory. You know, you're hearing so much about the collective West and at least the United States, everybody trying to figure out a way to get Ukraine into NATO. Oh, we got to get Ukraine into NATO. You know, and I'm just sort of, you know, throwing out that obvious question here. And the obvious, just one word, just a question, one word. Why? Why is it? Why is it so important? Look, a candy shop. No kids. No kids in the candy shop at the moment. Look at that. Some kind of a nuts or something, or coffee, or anyway. Actually, that's maybe my favorite shop right over here. Look at a shoe shop. Can you imagine that? And another shoe shop next door. I never thought that I would see a shoe shop here. I don't even know what this is. I've seen these shops somewhere before. Mini something or other. But this is an arts and crafts type of shop. You know, painting and things like that. So, just in case you're interested. No, but my theory, did I get to that? My theory is why? Why would they want Ukraine in NATO so bad? You know what? My theory is, I'll tell you what, they're losing this whole conflict, and NATO, collective NATO, actually the United States, they see this as existential for them, and I'm thinking that if they can get NATO, or get Ukraine into NATO, then they can join in the conflict and not lose face, because if they all of a sudden start joining in and attacking Russia, everybody would be pissed off. The public would be angry about that, and the way I see it is that's, you know, that's more important to these people. Appearances and PR and all that is more important, has more importance than the reality. So I'll tell you, it seems to me that that's the whole idea of the project. And you have this NATO meeting coming up. Don't be surprised. Just don't be surprised if they find a way to enter this war. As they find a way to get NATO or the United States or both, because they're not stupid. They know that they're losing, and they're losing big right now. Russia is dominating this. Ukraine cannot do anything with this offensive. And maybe it would have been, I don't know, I'm not going to say it would have been better for Russia to allow Ukraine to make some ground, because that would cost human lives, but I'll tell you, this NATO meeting is coming at the wrong time, and maybe Russia possibly should have had another tactic and already had Ukraine defeated by now. But of course that would have meant the loss of more Russian lives. But I'm just throwing that out there, and let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens in the near future, within the next 4 to 6 months. And hopefully the whole thing ends and there isn't that great of a loss of life. So, I don't know what's going on here. So, watch the rest of this video, and okay, bye-bye. Good morning, everybody. It's the 17th of June, and I'm here in Minsk, walking around in town here, seeing how things are. Here's, I thought I'd just maybe stroll in here. This is the Central Botanical Gardens. Garden, not gardens. Let's see what things look like in here. I'm actually trying to go to the Academy of Sciences, but I'm probably going the wrong way. Looks like everybody's going for a walk with their dogs and their kids. Sort of strange, isn't it, how they look just like people in Germany or America here? They're supposed to all be evil, though. Isn't that what we're told? Anyway, yes, I'll be talking some news, but I just wanted to. I was just passing by here, being lost. I'm on a journey of adventure, of course, trying to find my way around. I got off on the metro stop for Academy of Sciences, but I probably went the wrong direction. So I'll continue on in the wrong direction because I can't believe that the Academy of Sciences is so far away from the metro stop. But yeah, I'll stop right now. Then I'll get to the news once I find it. Who knows what time that will be? I think it's around 10:30 in the morning right now. Just look at the size of this bench. Boy, you can fit a whole 2 families on there. Some bird got angry, I guess. Anyway, this is very nice. Nice place to go jogging, you know, a little bit of hills here and there, and some of these trees, how they're growing. Look at this, a spruce. Yes, it is botanical, a lot of different species. This is some sort of a linden tree, I believe, but not this one. Maybe, is that an alder? I don't know. Look at this one, how it's growing. A little bit difficult to get over the path there unless you're pretty short. So in any case, I'll end this at the moment, and then I'll take it up again whenever I get where I'm hoping to be. Well, I'm not lost now. I was lost, so I know I'm going the wrong direction. But this is another entrance to that park. But I think this is called something different. It's actually maybe not the Botanical Gardens. It's still a park, but it was such a nice entrance, I thought I would show it to you. On the area here. Anyway, I gotta head the other direction. Okay. Well, I finally got close to where I'm supposed to be going, but it's on the other side of the street. I'm not quite sure how to get over there. There's some sort of a, I don't know, maybe it's an underpass, but I don't see any exit on the other side of the street where I'm going. But
где проспект 85?
Я не знаю, я говорю только английский.
Понятно. Hello.
Okay. He wants some kind of a prospect or something. But anyway, this is looks like a movie theater here. It's called October, obviously, you can sound it out easily. That's easy Russian, I guess. Anyway, nice architecture. I just thought I would show you that. And it sort of mirrors the architecture of the Academy of Sciences, which is across the street, and I got to figure out how to get there. Yes. Akademia Navuk. So I'll take the underpass and see if I can get my way over there. I made it. This is the National Academy of Sciences here in Minsk, Belarus. So I was able to walk underneath the street and I made it here, luckily. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit of news. First off, I want to say something that seems a little bit strange to me. I don't know if you find it strange too. It has nothing to do with Academy of Sciences, of course, but I just thought I'd show you the site here. But what I'm hearing lately is the West is trying to figure out some sort of a way to get Ukraine into NATO. And I don't know, they're going under some sort of a pretense that they go by rules. They don't go by rules ever, but I think they're just trying to find a way to save face. You know, if they had it their way, they wouldn't have any rules. The rules are for the other guy. The rules aren't for anybody in the collective West, of course not the United States, or anybody that does anything that benefits the United States. And of course the United States works with the the big billionaires, and that's probably who really runs the show. You got, like I mentioned, two of them we all know of is Soros, George Soros. Actually now it's Alexander Soros, because I think he handed over his billion-dollar, what is listed as $25 billion empire. Of course it's much higher than that. They have all these different books that we don't know about, like the Panama Papers showed us, and so many other times. They got a lot of money. They got billions parked in other places. Wouldn't you guys say so too? Wouldn't you? Look at them. They believe it too. So, but anyway, all these rich people are the ones that actually pull the strings, because, say, BlackRock, for example, they're the ones that are that stand to gain from all of this. They own already a lot of Ukraine. I think Zelensky has sold most of it off for prospective future business profits. He's sold his country, and I think when you think about it in that way, the only way to save Ukraine is for Ukraine to lose. And maybe if Zelensky actually does care about Ukraine or the people, which he hasn't been showing that, because a lot of them are just being massacred. They're sent to the meat grinder, I guess you would say. And but if he did care, he would hope that they would lose. Look at this tree. It looks like a big pillar. Unusual. So anyway, that's just an aside. And another fact that I learned, it has not much to do with the news, but I saw some report by the BBC, and they are admitting anyway, something that I said a few videos ago, that proportionally Belarus lost much more in World War II than any other country. They lost 25% of their population. And of course we hear everybody crying about other places, Germany or the UK or anything, but Belarus, of course, lost much more of their proportion. And after that is probably Russia. But we're not supposed to be talking about that. Be quiet. Yeah. 600,000 soldiers died, and 1.6 million civilians died. Belarusian civilians. Just Belarusian, let's say. Belarus became a country pretty much in 1939. And as you know, Ukraine didn't become a country until 1991. But yet here they're screaming for these lands, and of course they want the 1991 borders to remain, when they've shown clearly that they cannot, at least the government that is in place right now, cannot govern when you're bombing your own people and treating them that way, disrespecting their heritage and their culture. I don't know. Do you think they have a right to govern those people? I don't. So now the big news is from the Economic Forum in St. Petersburg. That's where a lot of things are just now said, mostly by Vladimir Putin, of course, but a lot of other people as well. I'll mostly concentrate on what Putin said. And it's like I've been stating in the past, that the Russian economy is far better than what we're hearing from the West. I said that many times. I was talking because I know people that lived in, or still live. They live in the Ural Mountains area. That's where a lot of the weapons production is taking place, and people are working lots of overtime, and they have 3 shifts going in most all the factories there. And of course, a lot of these weapons are also being sent elsewhere, and that's not just weapons in Russia. Russia is also selling they're producing much more. Everything is, and even they took over a lot of the old businesses from the West, like even McDonald's, as you know. Coca-Cola is another one. Whoever pulled out, a lot of times they just change the name. Belarus is the same way. Some of these things, I think it's called Bella Cola for Coca-Cola, and that's just one part of the economic shifts. And but it's you hear more about Russia, and the economy is booming, and lots of there's so much work over there. And the unemployment level is lower than it's ever been for at least the recent history, for a long, long time, probably since the Soviet Union. Everybody was working in the Soviet Union. I think you were forced to work. Actually, here in Belarus, you have to work too. If they find people that are not working, I don't know what they keep prodding you with or whatever, and then if you don't work, then you have to do, I think, 1 day a month, you have to do some kind of community service. And I don't think you get even paid for that, like sweeping some street or something like that for 6 hours a month, whatever, 1 time a month, something like that, so that you're at least occupied doing something. That's with the Belarusians. With a foreigner like me coming over here, that law doesn't apply, luckily, because I haven't been working for quite some time either. Yes. But as far as in Russia, if you want to work, you have a job. And let's see. And weapons production in Ukraine is now virtually zero. Everything is coming from abroad. So they don't produce any of their own weapons. They're just getting it all from the West. A lot of it is coming free of charge, as you know. And the loss of life lately, what's been happening, since they started their, I guess now they're saying they didn't start the counteroffensive. First they said they didn't, and they said they did, and then they said they didn't again. They said it's probing. It's, they're probing the defenses of Russia. But even with their probing, I think they lost a huge amount of their resources in life. I think it's nearly 10% of their military has been destroyed from probing. And the losses compared to Russia is 10-1. 10-1. For every 1 Russian killed in this conflict, 10 Ukrainians have lost their life. And one other thing that Putin was saying in this economic forum, which to me, it fascinated me, and I don't know if anybody else is going to be touching on this, but he said there is an information blockade of Russia. And I'm not quite sure what he means exactly. He said an information blockade is being used against Russia. And to me that, I don't know, there's something in there. There's something in there, and I think we're going to find out a lot more in the future if nobody else seems to question it, or if nobody asks for clarification from Putin about what he's talking about. That is it that they are blocking information from reaching Russia, or is it the other way around? Obviously, we know it's the other way around, but I think he's meaning that they're trying to block any information coming into Russia, which might even mean education. That education is information, learning, scientific results. That would mean it's long term. Obviously they're trying to collapse Russia. They're trying to destroy Russia. And that's one of the major goals, if not the major goal. Their foreign policy goal of the West is the collapse of Russia. They're doing everything. They're pulling out all the stops. And of course, they're running out of lives in Ukraine, everybody knows, and their weapons production capacity is strained. And of course, I think in the United States it's drastically increased, but it's still not enough. And it's very expensive. HIMARS are not cheap. Patriots are not cheap. They're sending more Patriots. They said they didn't have them, but apparently they do. And they're sending some over. And Putin also was mentioning that they have no policy of de-dollarization for the Russian economy or for the world. So they are not pursuing any kind of a de-dollarization, even though you're hearing about this all over. He's talking about the West is doing that to themselves. And it is very true. And a lot of other people, a lot of countries, of course, they want on board because they see that it's de-dollarization and it's the U.S. doing it itself. And yeah, they want a part of that. Nobody wants the weaponized U.S. dollar anymore. It was a pure demonstration of what they're doing to Russia. And of course, they've been doing this actually for quite some time. I remember once they were doing something to a French bank, and charging it like some billion euros or something because of some minor infraction of what they did. Very, very unusual. But anyway, that's just weaponization of the dollar. And of course, the collective West isn't taking part in that too. And I don't know why they would be happy to go along with it. France, wanting to get into the BRICS meeting in South Africa very soon, that maybe tells you that Macron is having some conflict of interest there. He was a Rothschild's banker, and some people puts that as negative. He's in banking. And maybe once you're a Rothschild banker, you're always a Rothschild banker. I don't know. The Rothschilds, they might even be the men behind the curtain that are the men behind the curtain. They might even be the ones pulling the strings on Bill Gates and Soros. I don't know. That's the bankers of the Queen. Well, now the King. I should mention too, what did Biden say? What is it, yesterday, a couple of days ago? God save the Queen? I think he's a little bit behind. Anyway, I don't want to try to probe into the mind of Joe Biden. I don't think anybody does. I don't think anybody can. I don't know, only his hairdresser knows for sure. Yes, but Putin said that the U.S. is using the dollar as an instrument of struggle. But I've mentioned in previous videos, and what if you go and start looking about what Putin has been saying in this economic forum here in St. Petersburg, what I've been saying is, Putin is recognized as a lawyer, but he's not recognized what he's best at. He also has a degree in economics, and he's a brilliant economist. I think he is far better in economics than he is in anything that has anything to do with law. So a lot of people need to start recognizing that. They should be recognizing it now after what he was saying here in this last meeting, and of course what is going on with the world's finances. So I'm talking mostly in macroeconomics. Yes, indeed. I even knew a graduate from Oxford, a macro and micro and accounting, an honor graduate of economics from Oxford University and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As a matter of fact, he was the economic advisor of Lee Kuan Yew in Singapore, and he had a lot to do with Singapore becoming the richest nation per capita on earth. His name is Ivan O'Neill, and he's the leader of the Greens Party in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Doesn't get enough recognition. He used to be the Secretary of the Treasury, I guess, of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and of course I think they had disagreements with the present leader of St. Vincent and the Grenadines today, and of course that's probably why St. Vincent and the Grenadines goes, unfortunately, absolutely nowhere economically. If anything, they're far worse off than what they were when, definitely when I was there, but say 20 years ago. They're worse off now than they were 20 years ago. and they don't have any sanctions against them. Anyway, bad economics. A lot of other countries have made big strides forward. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has gone nowhere, or in minus. Yes, indeed. He said that the West, the USA in particular, has chosen, instead of contact with Russia, they've chosen weapons to Ukraine. And he was talking about the F-16s, and in his words, he said, he's believing that, of course, they're going to be giving F-16s, and of course that's probably true. They've been escalating beyond their red lines over and over again in the West, and Putin's words were, "We will burn them. See what happens next." Of course, that's what's happening with the tanks, and Great Britain is now pleading with Ukraine not to send the tanks into this counter-offensive yet, because of everybody's seeing how the Leopards and the Bradleys are all burning. That it's just bad for their reputation and weapons sales for the UK, and they're in dire need of money right now, so they want to keep at least selling weapons, I guess. I think that's my take on it. I don't know. And Orban from Hungary, he said that if a different government was in power in the United States, that this whole conflict with Ukraine would have never have happened. He's of course meaning Trump. He did say Trump, I think, but I think he's talked about Trump later in the past, so that's exactly what he's talking about. And Putin also was mentioning that Russia has more nukes than NATO. He didn't say the US, he said NATO. So, And of course there is a scenario whereby Russia would use them. It's not, of course, as loose a scenario as the United States, who's used them mostly as probably test. That's what they did in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And of course he said that the West is trying to get Russia to reduce. He said they want us to reduce it. This will not happen. So that will not happen. They're not going to reduce their amount of nuclear weapons. Like I said, Orban, I have it written here now. Trump said that Orban said only Trump can stop the Ukraine conflict. Of course, he can't stop it in 24 hours. He can maybe start something, initiate something, but Trump is very determined. So Biden is determined to keep the conflict going, and Trump is determined to stop it. So what does that tell you? That's enough. That's enough for me right now. And who should probably be in charge, and what's happening to the United States? The destruction of their economy, in large part because of this Ukraine conflict. Of course, that's the main reason why the European economy is collapsing. Ursula von der Leyen now in South America looking for friends and people they can trade with. She's pleading because they need money and they need it bad. And who was it? I'll get to that. The economic finance minister of Germany, Christian Lindner. I'll talk about that. But anyway, as I said, the biggest goal of the West is the destruction of Russia so that they can now then start on China. And China, of course, is going to be a lot harder than Russia. They have a lot stronger economy, even though they don't have quite the military. But when you have this production capacity, you know, the military can come very, very soon afterwards. And China's a big country. And unless they can deal a fatal blow very quickly, China, if there was a war between China and the United States, it's very easy to figure out who would win that one, you know. I think China actually has a bigger military, just not the weaponry. But they have the production. The US doesn't have the production. And Putin was also mentioning that Poland, they still have plans to annex Western Ukraine. And I believe there were like 4 regions. And they found out that they still hope to have this, still take over the western part of Ukraine. And they call it the, what do they call it? The eastern boundaries or something like that. And over a year ago, President Duda of Poland instructed his relevant experts to figure out a way to take these 4 western regions of Ukraine. The eastern borderlands is what they call them. Yeah, with the strengthening of Belarus, I think their plans of wanting to take over the two most western oblasts of Belarus are probably on hold right now. They wanted Grodno region and the Brest region, which borders the Minsk oblast, of course. That's a big portion of Belarus. And like I said, they were issuing free passports to Belarusians, free Polish passports, And you heard it. Some general was talking the other day. They want to overthrow Lukashenko, and of course, that part of that is to get. I don't know why Poland. They need more territory. Why don't they just further develop what they have? It's like, what do they have in those territories? What resources does Belarus have? Farming. They have farming in Poland. I don't know. And it's not like why Russia is in eastern Ukraine for the resources. Russia has great resources. They don't even need those necessarily. But of course, it all helps. But those are just Russian-speaking people and ethnic Russian people in those regions. Yes, but Poland is. I don't think they're going to have much success now with the union state of Russia and Belarus. There are, I don't know, tens of thousands of Russian soldiers now in Belarus, at least in those areas. So. So that's not going to be easy. And I don't think they're going to have that much success of their military overthrow of Belarus either. And I think they're counting on a lot of forces within Belarus. I think a lot of vloggers have that wrong. It's that's primarily what they're banking on, is maybe they have some plants or something within the military of Belarus. Must be some higher ups, and I'm sure Belarus is looking into that in case. Yeah. But remember, not too long ago, Zelensky met with Duda, and they talked about turning Ukraine and Poland into a single state and trying to find a possible way. And a lot of this is in line with what I opened up with this news portion, is that they're trying to figure out a way to get Ukraine into NATO. And maybe, you never know. Let's find out what's going to happen on this NATO meeting here in July. They have to figure out a way to kill Russians. They got to kill. That's the whole goal, kill Russians. That's the best way I think they figure is to destroy Russia, is to kill Russians. Yeah, same sort of a goal. But now Ukraine is also talking about they want reparations. They want reparations. No, excuse me, I've got that backwards. Normally Ukraine wants money from everybody, but in this case it's Poland. Poland wants reparations from Ukraine for all of the Polish people that they killed. I think it was like around 100,000 Polish people were massacred by the Banderites. So I shouldn't be saying the Ukrainians, I should say the Banderites. Most of those people were centered in the western part of Ukraine. And 400,000 Belarusians, of course, were also. But Belarus has never asked for reparations. They should ask for reparations. Belarus is always taking care of themselves. Just like in the nuclear contamination zone, Ukraine got billions and billions of dollars from the collective West after Chernobyl, which is located approximately right on the border of Belarus, and Belarus got the worst part of it. They got 70% of the radiation fallout, and Ukraine only got 30% of it. But Russia didn't get anything from the collective West. They got help from Russia, of course, but not into the billions and billions of dollars like that. But a lot of that has been paid off. Huge debt. Maybe, I can't remember. I wrote it down somewhere. I'll be having that in my notes when I'm visiting that zone. But well over 100 billion US dollars was needed to help a lot of those areas recover. And of course, some of them can't recover because they're too badly contaminated. Nobody lives there. Some people work there, but nobody lives in those areas. They're not allowed to live there. German Finance Minister Christian Lindner, that's what I wanted to talk about. He says that Germany has no more money for the European Union. I thought he was going to say Ukraine, but he said the European Union. And Germany is instead making cutbacks. As you know, Germany just now, since they've just had 3 quarters of negative growth, they are officially in recession. And that doesn't surprise anybody after they decided to cut off their supply of cheap Russian energy. You know, brilliant move. Of course, some of them are rejoicing from this. A lot of those in government. Looks like somebody made a big mistake. I don't know if it was the voters or who, but some of these people that are in government right now, Habeck and Baerbock. Oh, Baerbock. Let's not even talk about her. But a lot of the rest of the EU is in the same condition. They don't have any money either. They're all taxed out. Lindner stated that the EU is maxed out. They've maxed out their long-term finances, their long-term budget up through the year 2027 with lavish aid packages to Ukraine. That was his words. They're maxed out because of the lavish aid packages to Ukraine. In spite of this, the EU is sending another 72 billion euros to Ukraine very soon. It really makes you wonder where. I tell you what, I would be wondering what Ukraine is doing with all this money. That 72 billion euros, that is more than what Russia pays for their entire defense industry. And think about that, all of the billions that the US sends there and all the rest of the countries. It makes you really wonder where all this money is going. I don't know how many houses does Zelensky have right now? But it's not just Zelensky. Many people. There are a lot of people getting rich in Ukraine right now. And it's not only just from getting free money. Ukraine has always been getting free money, even during their time of the Soviet. Everything has been coming free to Ukraine, unfortunately, for most of their history. But they're also in the illegal organs trade, the drug trade, as you know, child trafficking, everything. Anything that is illegal, that's Ukraine, baby. If you're a criminal, I guess that's the best place to go. That's fruitful grounds. You probably have a lot of competition, though, if you go over there. Corruption, criminality, sex, drugs, rock and roll. And they're saying that this 72 billion euros is just enough to keep Ukraine afloat. All pensions, as you remember, are paid for by the United States. The U.S. pays for all the pensions of the Ukrainians. You know, compliments of the United States taxpayer. And of course, all this other money, compliments of the EU taxpayers. Makes you wonder when people are going to start waking up. Makes you wonder when the Ukrainians are going to start waking up. But I guess the more people that get killed off, the less money they're going to have to pay in benefits, I suppose. The more people that leave. But of course, they're still paying benefits to people that are living abroad. This is really terrible racket, isn't it? Terrible racket. Everybody should be getting sick right now about. It makes you wonder what they could do with all this money that they're sending. What these hundreds of billions of dollars could be doing for the world's poor. Yeah. I guess in 2021 alone, Germany contributed 21.4 billion euros. Wait a minute, that was to the EU budget, not to Ukraine. And so they're the biggest contributor to the EU and the biggest recipient of the money that everybody's sending to the EU is Poland. They're the biggest drain. They received 12.9 billion. But it looks like Ukraine costs much more. And it's not even a member of the European Union. Think about that one, will you? And Germany's trying to cut 20 billion from the German government and the coalition, which means, of course, the Green Party. They don't want this. They don't want it to be cut. They don't want any cuts. What they want is tax hikes. They want to tax. Let's tax the country into prosperity, baby. Yes. So a little bit more about that economic forum. It came out a little bit later, at least when I was reading on the news, some of this stuff. I'm going to get out in the sun here. I'd rather walk in the sun than sitting in the shadows, even if it's in a nice place. Yes. And somebody was asking about Zelensky and Judaism and Nazism. I don't know exactly what the question was, but let's see. I could kind of paraphrase here. I wrote this poorly, so bear with me. Bear with me. I wrote this very poorly. So because it was kind of messed up when I was reading it. But it was about denazification too. I think somebody was saying that denazification is ridiculous, going by the fact that Zelensky is Jewish. And that's a question I've been asking all the time. I've been asking, and I tell you what, I don't know if anybody can answer that question. I guess we all just have to accept it as one of those things that it is what it is, baby. It is what it is. No, maybe we can say there is such a thing as Jewish Nazis, but that doesn't make sense. I don't know. Maybe it's because, I don't know. I thought I would not have somebody walking behind me when I'm talking. Some people, they pass this notion of the self-hating Jew. but I think that Rezhnikov, I think he's Jewish. And I think at least at one point in time, at least the top 3 leadership of Ukraine were Jewish. And you know, so it's very odd. It makes you wonder how that could happen. Because if you go to Belarus, for example, they exterminated nearly the entire, these self-same people, the Banderites, they exterminated nearly the entire Jewish population of Belarus. And that is a fact. That is a fact. And if they killed so many, like Bandera, I think he killed, in a very short time, I think it was at one point in Lvov, that area, I think it was like in, I don't know, I don't want to be wrong by saying that it was like overnight, because you can't do that overnight, but in a very short time, I think he killed 60,000 Jews. 60,000. Just for Lvov. So anyway, I don't know how there could be so many in Ukraine anyway, but remember Zelensky, this is another odd fact. This is another contradiction. He didn't even know how to speak Ukrainian when he became president. So, in truth, Zelensky, oddly enough, is in truth, ethnically, he's a Russian. And what does that tell you? Somebody interested in English turning around here. So ethnically, he's Jewish and he's Russian. And yet, he's leading a bunch of people that are killing Jews and Russians. And that's kind of in line with what Vladimir Putin was saying. So Russia's goal, one of the goals, is of course denazification, demilitarization, denazification, and of course to free those newer Russian territories, Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and the other one. What is it? The other one. Forgot the name at the moment. So anyway, but it's not ridiculous. I don't know. It is. It's just strange. It is just strange. So. And Putin was mentioning that his friends, his Jewish friends, say that Zelensky is no Jew. He is a disgrace to the Jewish people. That's what they say. Putin said, "I am not joking. This is not irony. Zelensky and his Ukrainian authorities celebrate Stefan Bandera." Putin said, "Zelensky provides cover for this scum." And I'll tell you what's really happening. It's not that Zelensky is providing cover for this scum. This scum, I think they rule Zelensky. So Zelensky is cover for them. Zelensky is cover for them. I think it's the other way around. So they're running the show, and Zelensky is like a puppet. And it makes you really wonder. I don't know. I couldn't be such a weak. I couldn't live with myself being weak, like Zelensky might be. You know, if he doesn't believe in this stuff, being Russian and Jewish himself, and you know, running a bunch of people that are against that. Здравствуйте. And on Tuesday, statues of Lenin were being removed from Ukraine, and they're being replaced with statues of Bandera, Stefan Bandera. And Putin was mentioning how strange this is because Lenin is, technically speaking, the founder of Ukraine. Lenin is the founder of Ukraine. Lenin is not really loved in Belarus or in Russia, actually. But you know, there's a big difference between how things work over here, and the Bolsheviks are not loved. As a matter of fact, a lot of people really have hate. Well, strong dislike. Hate is a hateful word. They have strong dislike for Bolsheviks because they're the ones that started all this turmoil over here. And if you talk about what happened in the very beginning days of the communism, it's incredible. Marriage was against the law, and the children were actually owned by the state, and lots of crazy stuff. And we talk bad about Stalin and how much of a dictator he was, and of course, I don't know, you can see things from both sides. A lot of the most beautiful buildings, of course, here, even in Minsk, are attributed to Stalin. The building I live in is a Stalinka, built during that time, and he wanted quality. And of course, not soon after that, somewhat after that, everything started going downhill. And Stalin also, he's the one that turned all that back. He again instituted marriage, and the children belonged to the families and things like that. So the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's all I have to say on that. And actually, that's about all I have to say right now, you know. But you should subscribe if you haven't already. I always say that at the end, and most people say that, I think, about 1 minute into their video. I don't know what that is, to maybe get some people to push that like button, and then by the time the video is over, they forget all about it and they've already locked them in. But anyway, that's about all I have for right now. I might be adding a little bit more, I doubt it, but take this home, get this uploaded. Might take 2.5, 3 hours for them to buffer this in YouTube like they normally do for me. So, but until that time, and remember, soon after the 1st of July, I'm going to be uploading some video about the nuclear contamination zone, and you don't want to miss that one. That's going to be quite unique. Not many people go there, and you have to get permission 2 weeks in advance. You have to apply for that. So I'll be doing that, and at least for the next one. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.